Welcome to Feminine Power Time. Turn off the chatter and tune into what matters. This is where we reimagine the way we and the world work from the inside out by bringing together leadership, wisdom, and well-being. I want to welcome you today. This is your host, Christina Rilo, and we are starting the second in our two-part series. It often kicks us off at the beginning of the year. I have been titling this, I think, for the whole 9 years that we've been doing this, Wisdom for the Year Ahead. And every year that I can remember, the last 9 years, I'm always like, oh man, it's intense. We really need some wisdom. And it's kind of intense. We really need some wisdom. I've been waiting for the time when we're going to be like, oh, it's so peaceful. It's so peaceful. I don't know. Do we have enough wisdom? I think we might have enough for this year. Alas, the outside world is not necessarily on the same trajectory as peace in the world yet. However, we are on our way. So for those of you that tuned into the first part with myself and Shannon Gill, where we used evolutionary astrology to kind of take a look at the patterns and the cycles so that we can create some level of sanity and centeredness as we go through this transformational time, which keeps getting hotter and hotter by the minute. And that was what the meta was about. So we really went on the meta. Today, we're going to take it down to the personal, to like, okay, what are some practical things that I can do this year that are going to help me? And this is the theme for this. I'm naming this theme for ourselves. Any of you that want to join me, you can. You can, of course, have more than one theme, but the theme for my inquiry is, how do we keep peace in our cells? Not peace in our padded cells, but peace in our cells, within our being, within our brain, within our heart, our spirit, our mind. Like, how do we keep the peace within, in our cells, so that we can walk through this time with grace and compassion and discernment and wisdom and be agents of elevation without being what I like to call dummy pants. No dummy pants, and no burning down our tree in these very transformational time. More on that. We're going to talk today a little bit about the difference between Phoenix light and like Phoenix burn it all down. What I basically did is I sat down and I said, okay, what are some of the practices, the tools, the perspectives that we can use as we go into this year to come back to? And you're going to love this. They're all in P's to go along with peace in my cell, peace in my cells. And P is also the 17th, pretty sure it's the 17th letter in the Hebrew alphabet. And it is a number that is about speech and speaking. I'm pretty sure it's 17 because P is my letter for the year, and it was my letter for the year a couple of years ago. It's a kind of a weird arcane thing that sometimes happens for me, where there's a letter that keeps showing up in all my themes for the year. And then I'm like, why are all these M's here? Or why are all these P's here? And then you can actually look up the spiritual significance of letters, and you will learn a lot. And so when I was reading about the P, it just really reminded me of our voices and our choices. And one of the things that we practice here at Feminine Power Time is we practice co-creation. And co-creation, part of it is the belief and the knowing that we are here, can, through our voices, our choices, and our presence, create a better world in which all people, beings, and planet can prosper, be safe, healthy, and whole. And so I love P for that purpose of our voices, right, and our choices and our presence today. So I'm going to invite you to turn out the outside world, and I'll kind of golden underline these as I go through each one of them. We'll kind of see how they show up. We never quite know how the feminine is going to come through, but I do invite you to really tune off the outside world, and whatever you're doing, just really taking a moment to take a breath. So simple and so challenging and so essential in this time. It was just leaving a Voxer for a beloved who's going through a tough time, and I also do coaching for her. And she was just asking me for some insight, and the first thing that just came was, "Oh my God, there's so much coming at you. We need to just slow it all down." And it's kind of like that right now for all of us. There is a lot coming at us, around us, even up and through us. You could maybe be able to hear my voice right now. It's a little scratchy. I'm 9 days into, just completing a home Panchakarma cleanse, which is an Ayurvedic practice, and I'm doing a year-long cycle of these cleanses to really really move out unease that has been stuck in my body, in my fascia, in my spinal system, all the places it gets. The unease starts in utero for most of us. And so I committed to this year-long Panchakarma cleanse process, which is not for the faint of heart, but on the other side, it's so worth it. So at the same time, I also got a cold, and it was like a double whammy. I'm like, oh my God, I think the universe really wants me to clear out, and it wants me to slow down. There better be like, we got to give her a cold and cleanse in order to get her to slow down. And one of the things that's happened in these 9 days, as does when we do a cleanse with intention, is cleansing on a body, mind, heart, and spirit level. So I had a lot of emotional releases. I had releases from all kinds of different places going on within my body and my being. And it is allowing me to breathe deeper because even I, like many of you who are out, have been doing practices, have been doing the internal work for years. These are really intense times, and it's going to rock us, or going to shock us, or going to hit pressure points within each of us, or maybe tender spots, what we sometimes call healed love cracks. They're tender spots. Or they're primal wounds that are in there, or primal imprints that get down to the basic fear of safety, or whatever those deeper imprinted fears are that are just beyond many times this lifetime. It's thousands of years of living on this planet, and then if you believe in past lives, there's all of the samskaras and other things that we bring with us as well. So there's just a lot of layers to it, and I'm pausing here to share this because when I chose peace in ourselves, I didn't mean it like some self-help, mamby-pamby, jamby-wamby, hooty-dooty, woo-woo. Yeah. Are you impressed with my ability to string together all of the words? I'm kind of impressed. I've had cleanse brain for 9 days too. I really mean it in the deepest sense of a practice and a devotion and a commitment, and as a place to come home to. That peace in myself, peace in ourselves isn't a bar to measure ourselves against. It's a place to come back to. It itself is the practice of coming home so that I can feel peace in my brain, in my being, in my body, my heart, in my spirit. And what does that look like for you? What does that look like for me? And as we get pinched, which we're gonna, hopefully with some of these practices, not as much, how are you gonna find your way back to that peace in your cells? So I'm gonna start with the first P here, patterns. I'm gonna invite you to look for them in yourself, to look for them in others, and to look for them in the greater world. It's one of the reasons I had Shannon come on to talk about patterns that we see in the collective. It's another reason why, I think it was last year, I did a whole series on patterns and how to find the patterns and the imprints within you, and how to transmute them, and how to alchemize them, and how to elevate through them. If you haven't tuned into that, I'll put it into the show notes, but I know it's in the library on my website, on the Feminine Power Time website, on my website in the series section as well. And it goes deeper into how to find patterns within yourself and then what to do with them when you find them. But patterns, what they do, and I'll just say one other thing, and patterns within others is that, when people are acting kind of crazy or pinching us or we're being pinched by them, one of the things that we have to remember is that we can't really grow to our fullest evolution without being in reaction to or in response to things on the outside. It can't all just happen on the inside, although that's where the bigger work happens. The outside world and other people, there are teachers, there are guides, there are gifts, even the ones that really, really freaking suck, are really hard and, really just like get us in the tender spot. But when those pinches show up or the pain shows up, and if we slow down and we ask, okay, what's the pattern here? So this is a practice I'm giving you here. What's the pattern here? So if it's something that's continuing to show up in your life that you're like, oh man, like it's been here before and here it is again. Why can't I shake this? Why can't I get past this? I've talked about this gazillions of times about there's like 7 main catalysts in the world of how we grow and what gets us to actually, like a snake, shed our skin. And most of us have primary ones that show up. And then it's what we do with them when we show up. Like as we grow, they should show up less and less. But when they do show up, instead of feeling like they're happening to us, and we're able to find our way that they're happening for us. So if there's a pattern like that that's showing up for yourself, which pretty much for everybody I know, that's happening. If you slow down and you ask, what's the pattern here? What's the pattern here that's wanting to reveal itself? And what is the underlying emotion, the underlying fear, the underlying thing, like what's at the root of where this pattern comes from within me? And what about this pattern that's continued to show up? How has it supported me? And what no longer serves me? So just let's make this practical. Think about this right now in your own life. What is a pattern that is present right now that is not a joyful pattern yet, but it's something that is, it's like that sand on the pearl. And if you were to look at that pattern and maybe be able to name it, see if you can just kind of tune in to what might be at the root of it. What's the deeper fear? What's the thing that's not working, that it's rubbing up against you? And instead of railing against it, it's releasing with it, because there's something that's wanting to come through the other side. And this is what I mean by Phoenix light. So we are in an alchemy year. It is the year of the snake shedding skin. It's the hermit. It's the wise woman. It's a transformational year. It's a 5. That's transformation. So alchemy is amazing because it supports us to raise our frequency. And so whatever's showing up for you is calling you, is there. It's hard, but it is there to raise the frequency, to open us up to more love, As basic as it is. I'm obsessed with Jimi Hendrix right now. When the love of power becomes the power of love, the world will know peace. This is like be the change you wish to see in the world, right? It's like we throw it around like it's chocolate chip pancakes with Mickey Mouse ears, which, while yummy, is like, this is real wisdom, you all. And it's hard, right? It's hard to be like, whether it's money or it's health or it's someone in your, a death, the deep feelings of a loneliness. And oh my God, they're so heavy. But they are here for our emancipation. They are here for our liberation. I have to believe that. Because if I don't believe that, I'm just going to pull the covers over my freaking head and go back to sleep. Like it's too much, right? But if I can look at it, and my same patterns are coming up too. Like this is one of the reasons I'm doing the cleanse, to move this stuff out. And Noah and I did a weekend subtle body workshop to move out the samskaras, which is a Buddhist word about kind of these imprints that keep us on the karma wheel of just having to keep staying in the suffering and the struggle and the suffering and the struggle. And I'm not discounting the challenge of this because there's all different degrees of it. But what I'm saying is like, this is where our power is. And one of the themes that I'm seeing and the patterns that I'm seeing is people are feeling disempowered, feeling like we don't have the power. We talked about this a little bit later, like we have no power over so many things that are happening. And this is one thing you have power over. And it's actually really important. And it's one of those things that gets missed or doesn't get focused on because it's not sexy. Like there's nothing sexy about this. But there's everything that's powerful and significant about it. And it's not an easy fix of just like, oh, okay, well, I'll just do this little practice and then I won't have this pattern anymore. It's like, no, can we be in relationship with these patterns that have deep fear in them, deep all kinds of things, and still rise through them with compassion for ourselves? I think we can. And that's why there's some of these other things I wrote down, like we need play this year. Oh my God, we need play this year. We need time with our peoples who make us feel good this year. We need play and time with our people. And we also need practice. We need to be in spaces where we can deepen our practice. And these are all good things. As the world is doing what it's going to do, just like write these words down. Play. Oh, practice. My people, full permission, you all inside of this, of being supported. We'll talk about this in the next podcast, but just like, okay, if what Christine is saying is we're in a Phoenix year, a snake year, we're going to do Phoenix light, so we don't have to like go down to the depths and depths and depths and depths of our soul for the next 6 months with Persephone, which is a piece of going down into the winter and having to go down to Hades before you come back up. Let's touch these places and work with them while also being in the light, because the environment in the world has way too much darkness in it. And so if you stay too long in the dark, in the shadow, you might get lost down there. That's where I'm saying this is a Phoenix light year. And so we need things that keep us light. Like for me, doing the yoga in community, doing this Pachakarma in community. I'm on my way to Austin to spend time with my people and do a weekend visioning altar with a group of women who are in one of my leadership cohorts that I'm also a part of. And we do this every year to set our frequency for the year. And then I'm going to, hang out with people who are just good humans doing good stuff. And so whatever those patterns are this year that you're working with that are going to bring you more peace in your cells, just name them, write them down where you can see them. And choose 1 or 2 or 3 and be like, okay, like I really see these are inviting me. And I have the power to actually make a difference in my life, to raise my frequency, to use this energy. And so I invite you to do that, to really write them down. It helps a lot. Last year, one of my patterns was over self-reliance, and I worked that all year. Another mine of one was releasing struggle and embracing ease. Another one was getting out of the gain and then drain cycle. That what was happening to me in different ways with different entrepreneurial ventures that I have. Gain, drain, exhausting. And I've been working that pattern for a couple years. So what are those patterns? It could be in your relationships, in your way your work is working, your money, your health, whatever that is. And you're like, all right, universe, I'm ready to work with this. All right, patterns with self. And you got that play, lots of play, spending time with your peoples, and deepening your practice on all of those things. I'm not going to go into a lot of detail around practices today, but I'm just letting you all know this is the time to deepen in your practice. Physical practice, body, mind, heart, and spirit practices. So whatever those are that we talk about all the time here, everything from cyclical living to intention setting, to journaling, to yoga, to whatever that is for you. Okay, patterns in others. So this is going to be, you're going to love this. I'm going to double us up on this tool. So people that are in your life that are people you know that may pinch you, that you may feel hurt about, that just, just have baggage to them. This is a space to be able to look at what is the pattern for me in this relationship and what is the pattern in that person that I see. Now, you got to be careful with this one because you can end up in the I'm better than this other person piece. So I'm gonna give you a tool here, which is it's a double-sided tool, and the tool is passionate detachment and compassionate detachment. So think of this like a coin, or think of it like a power spectrum. Looks like an infinity 8. And on the feminine side, the water, you got compassionate detachment. You should draw this out. So just let's do it in the perspective of the power spectrum. So on the feminine side, on the left, water, blue, compassionate detachment. On the right-hand side is passionate detachment. That's fire. We'll get to that when we talk about patterns in the world. And so compassionate detachment, what that means is that you're able to, in a situation, have empathy, have compassion, any of the 8 different facets of compassion: empathy, sympathy, understanding, mercy, forgiveness. And what I need to do a podcast on the power of compassion and the 8 facets of compassion. Note to self. We'll get on that in the Genuine Power series. So it's the ability to have those feelings of compassion, empathy, sympathy, understanding, kindness, gentleness, without being attached to the outcome, without condoning any person's behavior, without investing your own energy in things being different, and without taking it all on. And while also being able to see other things that are actually going on. So, for example, I have a friend. I'll give you a very personal example. I have a friend who I love her so much. I love her dearly. And when we are together, we're spending time together, it's just all of that. It's both feel seen. It's great. And she has a pattern in which every, year and a half, she kind of disappears, and I don't know where she goes. And then I reach out, and she kind of doesn't return calls. And because can be so close, when she kind of disappears like that, it hurts. It really hits my tender spot of abandonment and loneliness, and I don't like it. And it can really send me off. It could really pull me out of my own presence. And so when I'm in my own trigger about it, I just feel hurt and I feel lonely, and my brain's like, well, why? Why is she like that? Why was she calling me? Why isn't she calling me? What happened? What's going on? And then my brain wants to figure out all kinds of ways of which my ego wants to respond. It wants to catalyze the situation. It wants to call her out. This is my 8 ego and the Enneagram. Love the Enneagram, so helpful. And I'm like, that is not the recipe for success, Christina Rilo. I've learned my lesson around this. And so one of the ways I get to compassion, to actually being able to feel compassion, is through one kind of compassion is understanding. So if I can look at somebody and understand where the deeper root of why they might be responding or reacting in that way, it allows me to open my heart, which allows me to open up to the field of compassion, which is one of the biggest superpowers on the planet. And I can take a breath, and I can release that energy that it gets in there, my part that feels alone or abandoned. And then I can also let that person just be who they are and what they need, and not need my mind to make up stories or chase or catalyze or any of those things. So I've found that understanding is my gateway in. This is why I love the different facets of compassion, because just to go to compassion sometimes, like it's too much. Like it's like, sure, okay, if I was Buddha or, something like that, maybe. But this is where like gentleness, it's another kind of compassion, kindness, patience, sympathy, empathy. Empathy, the difference between sympathy and empathy is sympathy is I'm so sorry for, your loss. I'm so sorry for your pain. I'm so sorry for your struggle. Empathy is where we actually can feel another person's, I feel and witness your pain. I feel and witness your struggle. I feel and witness those things. And both of those can open our hearts. All of those can open our hearts. So just kind of thinking like, what is your gateway into compassion for you? And is there somebody in your life, like with my friend here, as I was able to get to understanding with Noah's help, who helped me see where this pattern is within her and how it's not about me. So we apply the yogi wisdom of when it feels personal, make it impersonal. And when it feels impersonal, make it feel personal. But these are heightened times, you all. And so one of the things I've noticed is that the bigger the self patterns that are like pinching us, or like that game Operation, if you remember that from like the 70s or 80s, they still have it where you have to pick the bones out of the thing, and if you hit the side, it makes a very buzzing noise. That's happening to our nervous systems and on various different levels. And so when that happens, your brain can't be rational about it. Feel impersonal, personal. Like we need some help. And this is one of those, other P's is people. Like, who are your people that you have that can help you when you are tweaked out? Because you're going to need more than one this year. And so by being able to see that and feel that understanding in her, what I could see, it allowed me to open up my heart and then come back and say, okay, what do I need then? And what I realized is like, I need more people. Like, I need more people who are pure in spirit, pure in heart, operating at a similar level of consciousness as I do. And I just need more people, more sistership. And so, okay, I can do something about that. So in the relational piece about really in looking at what you need, that's another way to take it into empowerment. So see how we're kind of coming back to empowerment in all of these. But the detachment part is like, yeah, I'm not going to change her. Not my job. And I don't know if she'll ever call me, but I'm not going to sit around and wait for it. And I'm also not going to be mad about it. And it took me time to move through that because I know I'm working through the patterns. Does that make sense? So maybe choose a relationship or two. And again, look at the pattern that's showing up inside of that, because those people are showing you they're an energy and they're a frequency, and they're showing you something within you that is ready for an upgrade, a phoenix light. Okay, so we got compassionate detachment. So let's go back. I'm going to marry the pattern here, okay? So third one for today. Patterns, where to look for them. I want to invite you to open up your eyes and really see the patterns that are happening in the bigger world stage right now. And that could be in the organization you work in. It could be in the bigger many things that are going on. This is one of the key ways we keep peace in ourselves and we stay deeply rooted into wisdom. This is our Jedi superpower. It's actually a form of intuition. It's called overview pattern. And when you can see your overview, when you use your overview pattern channel creator intuition, you see how all the things are connected. It gives you insight in a way that you wouldn't be able to see otherwise. And it doesn't mean that the horrible things that are happening don't tug on your compassionate heart, right? It's like it, because it does. But when you look around, for example, and you see these weather disasters that are happening and seem to be happening at an increased level, and having been in two of them where I live, I think I can share this pretty honestly, is that they're devastating on so many levels. And they should open our hearts 100%. Like, if our hearts are not opening, we are missing what is going on here with these weather disasters. Mama Earth has been trying to get humans' attention for a very long time. A very long time. And one of the patterns that I see is greed, and ignorance and recklessness. Those are three patterns I see all over the place that are at the deeper root of what is causing this current reality. It's just now really in our face wherever we look, whether it is a leader at a company or a country or a technology or like you can, if you look with your eyes, you'll see the greed, you'll see the recklessness, you'll see the call for humans to wake up. And unfortunately, a lot of people, individuals, are caught in that path because that's the only way. Like, if I look at how do we go through this and how is this going to shift, the only way I see through is that the human heart awakens. It is that simple and seemingly that challenging. It's what every spiritual teacher who was not about pushing a religion has brought forth onto this planet. And the human mass consciousness still doesn't get it, which is why I started with patterns for ourselves and others, because that's where there's a lot of work that we get to do, that we can make an impact, that we do have power over. It's important work. It's sacred work. So for any of you who are doing the internal frequency upgrades and are working in relationships to, keep coming back to love, but without, condoning and just letting things be as they are, like is sacred work. And as we go through this, really opening your eyes and looking at the patterns and what you see. Now, there are ones that you'll see that are like, oh my God, I don't want to see that. And where there is dark, there is light. So there are also, just as much as there are people who seem to really not care because they're an outpicturing of how much this society has become so sick that growth at any cost, relentless growth, it's never enough. I don't have enough. I need more houses, more money, more property, more this, more that. None of us are immune from this. It's just the degree of excess or the degree of scarcity that we find ourselves in. So when we see the bigger pattern, it's like, okay, I can have empathy, compassionate detachment, meaning I'm watching people in Los Angeles, people I know, people here in Asheville who have lost so many things, and I have empathy, I have sympathy. And I also cannot not see the bigger pattern of how the weather disasters are happening because of the greed and the choices and the unrelentless growth and the continued push in technology that is heating up the planet. I mean, poor Al Gore, he's like, I made a movie, tried to warn y'all. And so, we gotta like laugh at ourselves sometimes too. It's like, oh my God. So I don't know, why is it so hard for humans to like wake up and choose love and let go of the fears and the shadows and the imprints? And I don't know why it's so, I do, but this would be a much longer podcast and not really a lot of fun to talk about anyway. It doesn't really matter why. What matters is like, okay, like this is the path we chose. You can choose to go through. It's kind of like, you could end a relationship in a way that's lovely and graceful, even though hard, or you can blow it up to smithereens. I guess we're going to blow it up to smithereens. So, but if you can see the pattern, it's where you find the grace at. And so this is where compassionate detachment marries with passionate detachment. Because we don't serve anybody by being attached. We don't serve anyone by diving into the pain and getting lost in it. But we have to stay connected to our hearts while also staying detached from every single thing that happens so that we can see the bigger patterns. And then you know what we do? We listen. We listen. This is the superpower of the hermit, the Yoda, the wise woman. the wise one, the wise man, the wise being of wisdom. Wisdom slows down to listen. It's what we do after a storm. People have been asking me in Asheville, they're like, okay, is Asheville rebuilding? Are they rebuilding it? Are they rebuilding yet? What's going on there? They're rebuilding, all well-meaning. And what I say, actually, I have hope for Asheville, because what Asheville's doing right now is it's listening. It's healing and it's listening. It helps. It's winter here, so it's quiet. And there's no like rah, rebuild, get things done, rebuild this section. I mean, there's little things coming from when I looked, just coming from the developers who just wanted to kind of be like, okay, let's rebuild. You don't just go right from devastation to rebuild, because then you miss the wisdom. There's a reason these things are happening. And if we don't listen after that storm, in those moments, those rarefied moments that like happen after someone's died, or grief, like with the grief that gives us this space, that is where the insight comes. That is where the wisdom comes. And every wisdom tradition would tell you this. And so we listen with compassionate detachment and passionate detachment. And here's what we do with that passionate detachment, okay? So that's the fire side. Is you and I, and this is going to be our second to last part here. So remember, compassion detachment, passion detachment. Passion detachment is about, like, you have a part. You have your own dharma, karma, purpose. You have your amazing, beautiful, radiant presence that has the power to influence just because you're there. Because you're choosing to be a pure spirit, centered, calm, radiant, compassionate, fair, truthful. That matters. And so how we keep peace in ourselves, we focus on our part, on our purpose, and on our presence. Because we have the power through our passion. Think of passion comes through the heart, but it also comes through the belly. It comes through that like creative center within us. We are the co-creators. And it doesn't mean that's just like rah, 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 go, 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 burn out, do. Again, listen. This is about doing less, receiving more, and achieving a greater impact. And there are things for all of us right now where that Phoenix light can help us, because there's things that our cycles are ending for you. Phases are completing for you. Projects are completing for you, because we're stepping into this next 20 years. We've been talking about this shift for at least 3 years. You didn't catch the Align to Your Design series that I did, tune into that, because I go deep into this part of you've been getting ready to go into the next cycle. Well, we're still kind of what I call paring down to build up for what's next. So if you're feeling frustrated, if you're feeling behind, if you're feeling like you're not where you want to be, okay, well, join the club, because it's all good. The name of the game this year is stay present. Stay present, practice purposeful patience, and passionate detachment. So remember, purposeful patience, I think it's pretty self-explanatory. Stay present, like if you... There's none of us can really see, most of us that I know, beyond April and May, unless you have things like already like on your calendar. It's just kind of like, I'm like, gosh, I wonder what's going to happen. Like, can't really see that far out. It's very, it can bring up a lot of unease, right? But I know my part. I know my purpose. I know who I am. And if I can just stay present, adjust, right? This is the piece. People are always like, I want more presence. I want more presence. I'm like, if you want presence, you have to be able to stay present. And even people that I think have really strong practices, they're having a hard time keeping their mind present. I know I certainly was before the cleanse. Thank God for the cleanse. I mean, it's really cleared out my mind. So if you can, it's actually a practice of staying present. If you see your mind wandering, if you're, trying to future forecast, if you're feeling that frustration and that centered, like things aren't moving, if it's bringing up fear, it's a good old game that Ram Dass, I think he's the person who downloaded it, just basically be here now. And you call your mind back to the present moment. Be here now. It's like when I first started practicing this about 20 years ago, I would literally walk through the grocery store, be here now. Be here now. Be here now. Be here now. What's for today? Be here now. What's for today? Be here now. What's for today? So you're training your mind to stay in the present, because your mind is going to react to all of those pinches that we've been talking about. And it's a way that it tries to create safety. So stay present. One way to do that is the be here now. And also, just like we were talking with Shannon, is bring it down to what is it, carry wood, chop wood, or whatever. What's for today? What's for today? Do the Virgo thing. What's for today? What's for today? And just focus. And or if you need a day, just go be in the mystical and the spiritual and the creative and just untether from the material world. Great. Give yourself a day in the mystic. It's why I have Sabbath, why I'm going to Austin for 3.5 days to just be in that co-creative field. But I want to come back to this passionate detachment. When we don't feel like we have power to change the things that are happening, and it can be horrifying, and it's like I said several weeks ago, after the United States election, if you think that you have won, you've missed the whole point, because no one has won in this. I do believe it did not have to be as destructive as it's going to be, but that is the way that humanity is chosen. And, who am I to throw stones? I stayed 14 years and 6 months too long in a relationship. I knew 6 months in wasn't the one for me. And at the age of 30, it took the universe delivering me a Mack truck to get me to go. And I still didn't want to go. So I really understand the depths of what I call the patriarchal parasite that makes people blind to what's actually happening. And other imprints that keep us making choices that are so not in alignment with our best nature. So we think we've chosen the right way, and there really isn't a right or a wrong way. But whenever we are in a situation where we have leaders who are not honorable, no one's winning. No one is winning. And when we have companies who put profit over the health of people, no one's winning. So we're in this all together. But that makes the passionate detachment really important, right? So, my question to you is, what is your part in this beautiful unfolding and this transformational time? And what's your purpose, both in what you're here to give, but also how you're here to live. We talk about this all of the time. It's both and. One of my purposes is to actually create a reality in which I don't have to sacrifice my soul or my material well-being. I can prosper at all of those and still have both of those things without having to sacrifice either one. And it is that the way that I live is part of that. The choices I make for the longevity of my well-being, like moving from the West Coast here, doing a Ayurvedic cleanse, choices I've made not to pursue certain career paths because they weren't aligned for me, and I felt like they'd actually make me sick. So what is that for you? It's just like even like for any of you who are parents, it's like, raising good humans like that. Oh my God, that is your part. And that is a purpose. I think of a good friend who I've known from Chicago for a decade, and she's a son, and she's like, this is my gift to humanity, is like to do everything I can to raise a good man. And she is. And she also works in tech, and she's, doing her purpose in there too. But they're equally as valid. And I would say the raising a good man is probably definitely outshines whatever she's doing in the tech world. But we don't have to choose because we don't live in duality realities. So what is that for you? And if you can name that, it's like keep coming back to that with that passionate detachment of like, okay, like I know this is my part. I know this is my purpose. I know my presence. I know who I am and what my presence does. And okay, so what is just the next step? And this comes to what is just the next step? What is just for today? But if you can keep coming back to that center point in your practice, your presencing practice every day, tuning into it, touching into it, knowing it, feeling it, seeing yourself doing it and living it. No Elon, no billionaire boy, tech bro Hamzel, none of, whatever we might be going on out there. They don't have any power over us. Only if we give it to them. And there's sure lots of ways to look at it. And like I look at it, I'm like, oh my God, we're going to blow up the world. We're going to blow up the world again. Like, it's like you do not understand the level of things that you are playing with. But you know what? I got to focus on my part and my purpose. And I think about the 8-year-olds who are going to be in 20 years, 28-year-olds. And how can I take the work that I've done in the world and the books I've written and get that to those young beings so that they can stay connected to their intuition and their discernment and their deep sense of self-love. So we eradicate narcissism from the planet. Like those are things that I think about. And, and then I'm going to go to Austin and play with my friends and give myself permission to not have all the answers. I don't know how it's all going to work out. I don't know where it's all going to come from. But I do know my part and my piece. And so what is that for you? And if you haven't written those down, do. And come back to them every day as part of your practice. That's passionate detachment. It's like, yeah, I'm going to have passion for this. And I don't know. I don't know how it's all going to work out, but I'm not going to exhaust myself and burn my light out fighting against the machine. I'm going to actually go create the world I know is possible because I'm on Team Reimagine, because I'm on Team Elevate. And I'm not even going to judge the people who are on Team Destroy. I just know that's not my team. And all teams are valid. Some crazier than others. But that is part of it. Like, almost like when your parents would say, like, that's not your business. It's not your business. So as we wrap this up, then in keeping the peace in ourselves, I want to make sure that I'm being specific here is that it's not about not seeing what is happening in all the places and ways that it might horrify us. It is about detachment, passionate and compassionate detachment, but it's about also, I guess I would use the word, if we used a P word, particular, about who you engage with, what sources you engage with, when you engage, and how often you engage. If you're constantly being tweaked out and twizzled out for every decision that is being made wherever it is, you cannot show up in your presence. It's just not possible. And stay focused on your part and your purpose. See the patterns. Be able to be in passionate and compassionate detachment. So get clear on what's serving you and what isn't. And make your interaction with the media, with the happenings, work for you so that it's supportive of your frequency and it keeps you informed without being plugged in. You don't want to be plugged in to that matrix this year. It's like running the operation through you, but you do need to be informed about the things that are yours that you need to know about. So like one of the ways I do that is I have a Noah and I say, okay, let me know what I need to know. And also I have a direct divine downline and I say, okay, let me know when I need to ask a question or I need to know something. And And the other day just had to know, okay, what are 3 things I need to know? I was on my cleanse that I need to know going on in the world. And he named 3. And one of them really got under my skin. Luckily, I was on a cleanse, so I was able to come back and be present. And because I could see the bigger thing that was happening, and the control that was in the power that was being sucked in. But going back to my part and back to my purpose. And so it's different for everyone. My request is just like food that you consume, be honest and be real with yourself. And then what are the channels, the connection points that you're going to plug into that are full of light and higher frequency? And again, higher frequency doesn't mean you're not being with what is. It is just it's a whole different channel of operating. So we operate from wholeness and sustainability and inclusivity and honor and respect and compassion. These are frequencies, these are energies, and we can choose that now. And that is part of our practice. So wherever this finds you today, I want you to remember play, your people, giving yourself permission for what you need, and really lean into your practices that support you this year. I wanted to have this conversation with you all before I headed out to Austin. It's actually almost 8:00 here. I haven't taped a podcast and had this conversation with you all by candlelight in quite some time, but this feels like this was a good one to do. And this peace in ourselves, peace in my cells, it was a theme for me last year. And one of the practices, little bonus practice here, is that I would do in the morning is as soon as I register that I'm awake, I would close my eyes again and kind of get into a yummy position, sometimes hand on heart and belly, sometimes a little bit of a fetal position, and just say to myself like a mantra, peace in my cells, peace in my cells, peace in my cells. And really imprinting myself with that. It's a practice. It works. I've been doing it in different ways for over a decade. I don't know all of the scientific ways it does. I just know that it works. And it's not about convincing. It's about the frequency and the vibration. And so wherever this finds you today, I gift you these things. For those of you that are in Chicago, just want to remind you all that I will be there on March 7th for the When Women Lead Reimagining Day, reimagining, resetting, refocusing for the year ahead. And if you can be there, would love to see you. It is on my website. It's being hosted at the Altar Community. But you can also, I think the URL is gatherwomenleaders.com, gatherwomenleaders.com, or go to my website, Christina Rilo, and you will see it there at the bottom or in the events tab. And if you can be there, or if you know somebody in Chicago, we'd really appreciate you sharing it. I am a big believer in gathering right now and doing things in collaboration, which is a whole other podcast to talk about. But the women that I will be with in Chicago, I will be having them on the podcast as part of the Genuine Power series, which will be coming back around to. And we have some important, fun, I think, announcements about where the podcast is headed in its 10th season that I think are really modeling conscious collaboration and synergy, and do less, receive more, achieve a greater impact. So I'm excited when it's time to share that all with you, which will be after the event on March 7th. And for now, I'm just going to end us with a breath. And Jimi Hendrix, wise words. When the love of power becomes the power of love, the world will know peace. Thank you, my dear friend, fellow co-creator and traveler, for all of the invisible things you do to bring more peace into the world through your choices, your voices, and your presence. I look forward to seeing you soon. Okay, much love, everyone.